So I kind of have an idea of what I want to talk about today. A little bit of a horror hot take. I think they need to stop making Conjuring movies. They just announced that they're making a Conjuring 4, which I think this has the better potential of any of the other spin-offs. When you have a mainline movie, they usually turn out to be higher quality than most of the spin-offs. And also, I always enjoy seeing Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga play the Warrens. They always do a good job in these roles, and they play them with a lot of humanity. Their investigations are always something that I'm interested in seeing, and I always generally enjoy the mainline Conjuring movies, but Conjuring 3 was a huge step down from 2, and it's obviously a giant James Wan-sized hole. So when this franchise came out in 2013, I was over the moon with it. I was really into it. It made me get into the Warrens and all the lore behind all these cases, and I was very interested to see sequels. I was ecstatic to see that they were doing spin-offs of Annabelle and that this was going to kind of spin off into its own universe. But that's kind of where it ended. Just kind of for a little bit of a framework of how I feel. I'm a pretty big fan of the first movie, but I've just kind of seen it so many times that it doesn't really affect me anymore, and I don't gravitate towards it as much. I also think that with the amount of hype and overshadowing that it's given to other horror movies, in my opinion, it's become overrated. Annabelle is what it is. I haven't watched it in a long time. I enjoyed it when I was younger, but I really don't have any reverence for it, and I also never really go back and rewatch it. Conjuring 2 is very solid. I enjoy it quite a bit. Again, though, it's a little bit longer, and that kind of makes it harder for me to gravitate towards it for a rewatch, but still, James Wan is just a masterful director, so I'm always going to enjoy what he does. Annabelle 2 I'm not as high on it as everybody else. I enjoy it. It's okay, but I'm not as big of a fan. I think maybe I need to give it a rewatch, but I'm not a huge fan of it as much as other people. The Nun, though, that is the straw that broke the camel's back, and this is what made me think, like, maybe I've had enough. The Nun is just a boring, soulless corporate movie. I hate it. I can't stand it. I think that it's one of the most unpleasant viewing experiences that I've had in the past 10 years of a horror movie. I just felt stupid watching it. I really didn't enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't enjoy it, but probably not to the degree that I don't. Annabelle 3 is just, I never really got all the way through it. I just had no interest. It just felt like another gag movie. I was watching pretty much just for the parts of the Warrens, and that was all I was really interested in, and then nothing else stood out to me, so I just really didn't give it the time of day. Didn't watch La Llorona, and apparently I haven't missed much. These movies are oversaturating the genre. And then there's Conjuring 3. This came out at a point where I was just very disgruntled with this franchise. And although I'm always excited to see the mainline movies, I was significantly less excited for this one, and it really did not do much to win me back over. It was just kind of a little bit generic, a little bit more of a bland version of The Conjuring. But again, I always enjoy seeing these characters, so that did kind of win it a few more points back for me. But kind of more of my point of giving you a baseline for how I feel about these movies is because this is going to just affect how I feel overall. This is pretty much what New Line's completely focused their horror division on. They almost focus on nothing else. We've had a few things like Malignant, which is just another, James Wan movie, so obviously they're going to give it to him. But there's so many other franchises, so many original properties to create, so many other great horror sequels that could be made. I really want them to do another Nightmare on Elm Street movie. The rights are probably with the Craven estate, but I would have thought that they could have negotiated something for New Line, but they're too busy churning out all of these Conjuring movies. Despite being probably the most successful cinematic universe besides Marvel, it feels hollow. I don't enjoy these. I don't look forward to these. And, it's kind of sad to say because when the first movie came out, it was the horror franchise that I was the most anticipated to see where it went next. And now, about 10 years later, I'm just tired. I'm not really that interested. Whenever they announce a new one, I'm like, maybe they can learn from their mistakes with The Nun too, but I don't know why they'd mess with a winning formula. They made so much money on that first movie despite it being dog shit. So, I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't anticipate that they're going to try and change the trajectory of the franchise or do anything unique. They tried a little something different in 3, but it didn't really work. But the problem wasn't that it was a different idea, it was the approach, because the approach with it was generic. And that's all it really comes down to, because at the end of the day, The Conjuring was not a unique concept. It was just a haunted house movie. The ghost experts come in and they do an exorcism at the end. It was the performances, it was the writing, characters, it was the composition of the movie. It was how they told the story and the way that they utilized the scares, which made it so effective and scared me back in the day. But nowadays, it's just... Are you scared? Yeah. Like, that's all it is. Just jump scares, boogaloo, electric boogaloo. Nothing good. Just becoming a completely mediocre franchise, and that breaks my heart, because there was a time where I was head over heels with this movie, looking so much forward to the sequels. And you know, it has its good ones, but it just feels like there's such little effort put into making these movies anymore that I no longer look forward to them. Am I being too critical? Do you guys agree with me? Let me know in the comments. Love to hear your take on this whole Conjuring thing. I was just thinking about it because they announced the 4th one recently, so I kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on it, and let me know what you guys think. Have a good one.